One, two, three. One, two, three. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Thomas, right?
Yes.
Very nice to meet you.
Okay. Since, well, it's a very important time for Cervello because we have a second album after 50 years. But I want
Yes.
to start with a little history lesson because Cervello's history was significant but surprisingly short. So why did the band cease to exist after the release of the debut album, Melos?
What was the question again? Why did what?
Why the band ceased to exist
Oh,
after releasing Melos?
um, well, for different reasons. After we put the album out, we toured for like a few months and we did quite a few important festivals. And then we were about to start writing music for the second album. But there wasn't much interest in the band back then. We were too progressive for progressive rock, you know. We were on the left side of everything. So back then, it seemed like what people really liked were a lot of mellotron and keyboards and stuff like that, and we were not that. We were trying to be different, you know. And then so we didn't have much interest, and then the band started having different opinions on the not so much the direction, but somebody in the band wanted to incorporate keyboards, to become more popular. And I was against it, so I decided not to, and I went on and just did different things, and so that's why we disbanded basically, which was a shame. And actually, it was after we had already started. I started writing songs for the next album with the singer Gianluigi. So that's why actually we have this material because I was already working on a new album.
And how do you remember the recording process for the Melos? What was it like 50 years ago? Because you are a
Why?
producer. Now we have 15 microphones to
Yeah.
the drum itself. So how did it look like this 50 years
It
ago?
was well, yeah, for me, well, it's all relative, right? I mean, if you grow up in an era where that's all you know, that's all you know. We recorded the album on an 8 track. That's all we had, 8 tracks. And the drums were mono. Everything was recorded live, basically. We did the whole album in 5 days, I think. And in fact, the singer, Gianluigi, sang the whole album in 8 hours, the last day of recording. So that's how it was. But, we had practiced a lot. We knew the songs, everything was written. So we knew the songs very well. So we only took us like, I don't know, 1 or 2 takes per song. We played live. And then we did a few overdubs. So I played vibraphone on a couple of things. And we did a couple of flutes. And that was it.
And Melos has now been remastered. So why did you improve and why for this new remaster?
Well, because I've heard, which is interesting, Melos has been released 19 times in the last 50 years. So, and every time they release it, they try to EQ it and they make it sound not as good. So I wanted to give fans, a better version, of what we could do with those tapes, basically. So we decided that it would be a good idea, and Sony agreed to just remaster it so that you have, I think, a much better version sonically of what metals should be like.
And is there anything special on this reissue, like I don't know, previously unreleased photos or something like that in the booklet?
No, no, we changed the cover because, well, the actual graphics on the actual CD, I changed that. I made it into, it's like the top of a can, so which on the original wasn't there. And but we decided to leave everything because people really love the album as it is. They love the graphics. I mean, obviously we couldn't do what we had, the cover with the gadget cover where the can opens up. We couldn't do that. These days, record companies don't do stuff like that. So, but I wanted to change a little bit, so we put the actual look of the CD a little bit different. So that's the only difference, really, graphically.
Are you surprised that music from Melos is still alive, that is being discovered by new generations of fans?
Yeah, very surprised. And grateful. And actually, the reason why we did Kyra is because for us, it was a gift to all the fans that followed us for 50 years. When I did the record, I was 16, so I had no idea, that what we would do then would be somehow relevant 50 years later. So you never know, and usually it seems to be that way that when you do something that's a little bit different, people at that time are not really interested because it kind of pushes them towards something that they don't know, and so it's different and it's difficult for them to accept. But it takes years. It seems like it's always been my fate. Stuff that I do, it's always takes like 10, 20 years for people to catch up.
So what is so timeless about this music? Is it like you said before that you wanted to sound different than many bands of the time?
I don't know. Back then, the industry was very different. The public wanted something that was different every time. They didn't want sameness. They didn't want the same, which is actually the disease that we have these days. Everything is the same, and with AI, it's going to get worse. People are going to use same plugins, same stuff, the same stuff that everybody uses, and everybody's going to sound the same. And people, I think, are going to get tired of that. Back then, 50 years ago, you had a chance if you were different than the others. And we took it to an extreme. We really wanted to be different. And we didn't want to have any keyboards, and we wanted to sound, as good. I mean, in my mind, but obviously we couldn't sound as good as Gentle Giant, Van der Graaf, or King Crimson, or Genesis, who I actually was very fortunate to meet because my brother was in a band called Hosanna, and Hosanna and Genesis played uh, quite a few gigs. And in fact, Genesis, Peter Gabriel was influenced by my brother's band because they used to paint their faces. And Peter saw that and he started painting his face and using the masks. So it was you know, those were our inspirations, and the Mahavishnu Orchestra, because fusion had just happened and it was great and fresh. And so, we wanted to be different. And uh, it was requested by artists to be different, which is not the same now. So that's the only difference that I can see.
And like you said before, this new material from the choir was created with a successor to Melos in like in your mind. But it was created during the year 74 and 83, so we have like a big span of time. So you were still
Yeah.
hoping that Cervello will reunite and play some shows,
N-
record something.
n- no. So it was, so 74 was really the majority of the stuff that I wrote. But throughout the years, Gianluigi and I stayed in contact very much. We were like very, very good friends. We were like brothers. So he came to visit me because I moved to first to England and then I moved to California, where I lived for 40 years. So Gianluigi came to see me and visit me, and we every time we met, there was always a very big musical connection. So we decided, oh, remember that idea? Why don't we do another version of that? So we did different versions and different lyrics and different chord progressions, and that's actually how I was able to resurrect the tapes because I had a lot of material. The ideas were really like in it wasn't beyond, it was actually not even 75 because in 75 I moved to England with another band that I had, a fusion band called Nova. So I was already finished with Cervello in my head. But 74 I was still writing ideas. And so um, between that and 83 it was just me and Gianluigi trying a few things and see if we could make some of those ideas work, not with Cervello in mind, maybe for his album, which I ended up producing later, or for me. It wasn't about Cervello, it was about the songs. So that's why we have different versions of that, and I was able to use them.
And how much new material had to be created to put it all together, or was it possible only with the old tapes that you had?
Um, There are some instrumental parts that were written in those years that were not intended for Cervello, but because I was the same writer and it was at the same time, I felt, and the other guys in the band also felt that it was proper and belonged. But most of the material basically was just the ideas that I wrote down in 74 and just rearrange them, with the other guys in the band and just make them sound as good as we could and just give a sense, musical sense to them and the production, of course. It all happened, it took a while for us to do it, a couple of years. And then it took us a couple of years after we had the songs. The big question was who's going to sing, you know? And that's when I started thinking about, well, because I'm kind of a sound nerd, I like, I'm a producer, so I like to do stuff like that. So I started taking Gianluigi's performances, and fortunately for us, we live in a time when the technology allowed me to then flesh it out. And then after I had the performance, I could build with machine learning his sound, the sound of his voice again, almost, you know, and that I used to flesh out the vocals. And it was a miracle. It became, it was him, it was live. I mean, I started crying the first time that we put the music together with his vocals. It was amazing.
So how many original tapes with Gianluigi's vocals did you have?
I had quite a few, and they were all like bits and pieces. So it took me a while to just put it all together. But as I said earlier, we had different versions of the same songs, so I could take from that and just put them all together with the lyrics that he changed throughout the years. So yeah, we were fortunate.
And the press release doesn't mention the drums. So who is responsible for the drum parts
Right.
on this new album?
The drummer is an unbelievable young drummer from Italy. His name is Roberto Porta, and he is 26. I met Roberto a year and a half ago, and he came on tour. I did a tour last November, and he was the drummer, and he was just unbelievable. And I thought it would be perfect, and in fact, he was perfect to take those ideas and just make them sound as good as possible. So he's an up and coming. He's played with Paul Gilbert. He's played with me. He's played with. He's going to be in Russia actually next couple of days. Tour with a great bass player. I forgot his name, but great drummer. Young generation, 26 and loves it. His dad actually is a big fan of prog, and he was a big fan of Cervello. So his dad actually pushed him. Yeah, you should do this. So,
And
so
this
he
new
did,
album
and
was
this.
released by Sony Music. So how did Cervello come to collaborate with this industry giant?
Because they own the right to Melos. Cervello is distributed by Sony already. I had a couple of different labels that were interested, but it turns out that when I proposed it to Sony, they were actually very interested and they were enthusiastic. So um, they made us a really good offer, and we're happy to go with them, throughout the world. So it's kind of rare actually these days to have a prog album distributed by Sony or Warner or Universal. So we're pretty happy about it.
And this new release from Cervello was enriched with a concert from 73. How do you remember that performance? What can you say about it?
Well, I remember the performance. Um, um, I remember that we did not. We just showed up on stage, and we remember that the engineer was actually a friend of mine. Who was, um,
I lost the connection. Hold on a second with you. One, two,
Clemens.
three. Yeah, yeah.
Are
I
you
lost, I lost
back?
the connection. Okay, so okay, now it's everything okay. So again, about this performance from 73 because it froze like at the very first sentence.
Okay, okay, good. So I remember that we did not have a sound check. We just walked on stage. And I remember that the engineer was a friend of mine from art school who said, "Oh, I could do this." Okay. And we actually gave him the opportunity to do it because he had a very nice tape recorder. So he brought that to the gig and he said, "Oh, I can record tonight." Out of the mixer. So the conditions were not great. And but the audience was very, very warm, and they really enjoyed the concert. I enjoyed the concert. It was, as I said, sold out, so it was pretty nice concert. And the sound was not that good. When I had this recording for many years. In fact, my friend who recorded the concert made a cassette and he gave it to somebody who took this cassette and he started selling it on the internet for like 6,000 euros per copy. Crazy stuff. So absurd. So I said, okay, I don't want people to do that. So I decided to make this sound much better than what they had and give it to the people along with the new songs almost for free because I didn't want the other person to just make money off something that he wasn't entitled to and with a bad quality. So the night, I remember that as we all were in those days, I was high on, I smoked joints or whatever. So that's what I remember. uh, but I tried to play as good as possible. I mean, you're 16, 17, it's the 70s.
And during this concert, you played an instrumental song that was later never released. So what can you tell us about this?
I played an instrumental
Yeah,
of
about
a
this
new song, you mean?
instrumental track which was
Yeah,
never released.
that was a new song that we were working on along with the other stuff that I was writing, and we decided that we were gonna do it, even though there were no vocals on it. It was just you know, and we decided to do it, and I'm happy that we did. It's actually I like the ideas. I mean, I could probably rearrange it and produce it now and make it sound better, but I decided that it should be a good thing for people to hear what the band was like. There was a lot of fire in the band back then. We just wanted to play a lot. So, that's all I can say about it. When it was supposed to be one of the songs for the next album, and it didn't make it. So,
In 2017, Cervello was reactivated for one concert that was later released as a DVD. So, what is the story behind this reunion?
there is the owner of a very big Japanese prog label called Marquee, and they actually had distributed Melos for years. And he got in touch with me and he asked me if I was interested in putting the band together to do a concert in Tokyo. And I said it would be impossible because we hadn't played in 40 some years. I don't play like I played when I was 16, 17. I changed as a guitar player, as a person. So and he said, "No, no, please try to make it happen because it's my dream to see you guys, to hear Melos live once in my lifetime." So I thought about it. I talked to the other guys. We had the same problem. We had no singer because Gianluigi had passed away and the drummer had passed away. But I found a great guy, Virginia, who sang fantastic the night. And we decided to give it a shot. And it was fantastic. And actually, that was the occasion when I got together with the other guys and told them that I had these songs. And would they think they would be a good idea to give it a shot in just coming up with some new songs. That was the occasion. So that concert was really good. Actually, it was the seed for everything else.
Were there no plans for other concerts, like, for example, in Italy?
No, no. Although we would like to, and we're getting a lot of requests now. So who knows? If it makes sense, and if you can string some. I mean, we're getting requests from Europe also, in Holland and Germany, and who knows? Maybe, we would love to do it. I think it would be great. Italy has never seen us besides 73. There are all the guys that are buying the record now, we would love to see us live, and we would love to do it. We'll see.
So farewell on Care isn't like farewell to Cervello. We can expect something maybe.
Maybe. I really cannot answer that now. I mean, there are no plans right now to do anything else. In fact, we called it Kyrie because the farewell was appropriate because of Gianluigi. These songs were written in those days. To me, I have to say, I don't like reunions. I think reunions are kind of sad. I think you see these old guys trying to be when they were 20 or something, and they always fail. I never like. I don't think that the music is as genuine. With us, it was a little different because we had the fortune of having these songs frozen in time. So we could use those ideas, and it was on us trying to recreate what we did 50 years ago. And maybe that's why it sounds timeless. It's music of other times. It's like opening up, a treasure chest or something. So, answering your question, I don't know. I think that this album is probably the last one, but never say never. You never know.
And after the reunion concert, were there any plans or discussions about trying to create the new material with this new lineup?
Yeah, in Tokyo. Yeah, that's where we decided that we should give it a. I talked to the other guys. I said, guys, I have some tapes that I recorded 50 years ago. Should we give it a shot? And that's how it all started. That's why it took some time, actually.
That you didn't want to invite like the new members that played on DVD?
Oh, the you mean the drummer and the
Mhm.
singer? It just didn't turn out that way. When we were ready for vocals, that's when I had the idea. What about if I just try and rescue John Luigi's vocals, and make it real proper, instead of having somebody. Of course, if that had failed, if it didn't sound good, then I would have had, the guys from Tokyo sing it. But it worked out, so I'm very happy the way it did.
And you are known not only for Cervello because you are also a highly regarded session musician, because you have collaborated with such giants as Aretha Franklin, Miles Davis, Phil Collins. And since I had the opportunity to interview Danny Cummings, who's George Michael's percussionist, I would like you to ask, how do you remember working with this particular singer, with George Michael?
Well, with George Michael, the only time that I played on the song was with the duet with Aretha. It was called. It's a famous hit. Now it escapes me the title. Um, I knew you were waiting for me. That's what it was called. I knew you were waiting for me. That song. And that's the only time I really didn't work with George Michael on other things, so I can't really say. It was just part of this Aretha album that I played on, and he was duetting with her.
And what was your collaboration with Whitney Houston like? Because we can hear you at two first albums and one of the biggest hits of Whitney Houston.
Yeah, we did the first song, How Will I Know, which was a big hit. And then we did the whole album after that, where I Want to Dance with Somebody, all those hits. And back then, I was happy in California, just living my dream of becoming one of the top session players in the world. And I was only, what, 25, 24, 25. So, um, and so Whitney was incredible. And I was part of this production team and players with Narada Michael Walden, and we did a lot of records. And actually, the whole group of musicians, they all did very well. Randy Jackson is still a superstar in America. David Sanchez, who went to play with Sting, and Peter Gabriel and Eric Clapton, great musician. Walter Afanasieff, who did all the Mariah Carey stuff afterwards. He produced all of that. So it was a really powerful group of musicians. We were like working really hard, and it just happened. And so Whitney and all those people, I mean, George Benson, Herbie Hancock, a lot of people that we worked on. It was fantastic. I'm very grateful.
And how this other music adventure of yours begin as a producer?
Um, it happened because I left Italy and UK and I moved to California. So I lived in California for 5 years without coming back to Europe. And that's all the stuff happened with Whitney and everybody else. And then I decided to take a vacation and come back to Italy. And I met somebody who wanted me to produce them, and I was not interested. I was like, oh man, I'm doing some, the stuff that I wanted to do. I don't want to do Italian music. Back then, Italian music wasn't. But he was very persistent, and I did okay. Well, I'll try, and um, and it was incredible because I actually was able to bring to Italy the production skills that I acquired in California, working with all these great people, and a sound that wasn't present in Italy at that time. And it turned out to be a huge hit. This guy was, his name is Zucchero. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. Yeah, so I produced 11 albums for him and I played on all the stuff. And we changed Italian history. I mean, records were never the same after I produced those records. So that's how it started. And then I went on and people are asking me, and I discovered talents like a girl called Elisa, who's become a big superstar, and another band that I discovered and called Negramaro, and then Ligabue, and all these big names that were, you just once you break, it's like water. Once then it starts running down. And I just tried to make the best that I could always, not for the money, never for the money, always for the music. Even if you do popular music, it should be done in a certain way. It shouldn't be done just to make money. So I think when you do stuff like that with the right intention, something good always happens. It might not be what you think. It might be totally different, in fact, than what you think. But good stuff always happens, and I was very happy to be able to do that and to give Italian music a different sound.
With Zucchero, it's interesting because you work with him also as a producer, but also as a guitarist, for example, in
Yep.
live concerts. So, which side of the console do you prefer to be on? Behind the console or in front of console playing guitar?
For me, it's all the same. It's all about making music. It's like I love the recording, but I love making records more than live. Live, it's like I'll give you a parallel. Live to me is like theater, and records are like movies. I like the movies because of all the special effects and the fact that they stay for a long time. The live performances are very exciting. When you do theater, it's great. You have the audience, and every time is different, and it's fantastic. But it doesn't stay. It's like for you and the audience that particular night, and then it's gone. And so that's also very fun. I love playing live, but I prefer creating, composing, or creating things that stay, that are culturally relevant. And so I use the guitar or any other skills that I have to do that. Production, guitar, it's all part of the same. Writing songs, arranging songs, you know. So that is my preference. And so the live part, just being a guitar player, I'm actually kind of tired of that because after a while it gets boring, for me. I mean, I'm not interested in. I've done it since, that's adolescent. That's very popular with young people because it's what you do when you're young. After a while, you just want to make music. Mozart was an incredible musician, so was Beethoven, but you remember them not because of their skills, of what they wrote, the music that stays. That's the important part for me. That's what I try to do through production, producing, or writing music. I'm working on solo albums that are totally different than commercial music. But that's what inspires me. I look at people like Miles Davis, Alan Ellsworth, John McLaughlin, the Beatles. I mean, all the great stuff from the prog era. It's all stuff that stays. It doesn't go away only because you've played some notes and 1,000 notes a second. Which I can do, and I've done it, but it's not music to me anymore. So
And this is all that I have prepared for today. So thank you for your time. Well, maybe
yes,
maybe one more thing, because one of the parts from the new album that sticks into my mind is Reina de Roca, especially the
uh,
part when the vocals are layered under
yeah.
under one under another. So how did you create this part?
Um, well, it's also interesting because it's a 4/4, but it's all divided in different times with the bass and the drums. Is if it's the part that you're talking about, and then the backgrounds come in, and then he sings on top of that. That is what we. It's almost the same thing that I did with Melos, the actual song Melos, where the saxophone and the guitar do this part in 5/4 over a 4/4, and it kind of cycles. And I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted the vocals to cycle and not be the same, and then the rhythm I wanted to be different. But I mean, if you listen to it, it's just 4/4, and I like to trick people into when I do stuff like that.
Okay, so this is all that I have prepared. So thank you very much for
Thank
your
you,
time.
thank you,
I have a
Thomas.
blast. So have a good
Thank you.
evening, and you can say at the end something to Polish fans, Polish our readers and Polish fans of progressive rock.
Well, you want me to say it now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I would love to come to Poland. I'm not that far. I'm in Berlin, so I'm not too far from Poland. It's only like a few hours away. Maybe one day I'll come and visit and play for you guys. I would love to play our music for the Polish people. And thank you for your time, for listening.
Okay. Again, thank you for your time and
Thank you,
have a good
Thomas.
evening. Bye.
Okay, bye bye.